Okay, what's going on, guys? So, this is episode 2 of Inspired with Cameron Stevens, and we've got a very special guest today. We've got the Human Wrecking Ball, Newfoundland Wrestling. Should I call him a Newfoundland Wrestling legend? I don't know. I think I should. One of the biggest dudes I've ever been across the ring from. He is absolutely solid. The Human Wrecking Ball, Buck Gotch. How are you doing, brother?
Hello, world. Hello, Cam. How are we?
We're doing very good, very good. Welcome to Inspired Episode 2. And when I spoke to you about what your main inspirations were, you had explained to me how it was very difficult for you to choose one specific person, character, anything to choose as like this was something that inspired me the most. It was more so the professional wrestling industry as a whole, and I absolutely love that because obviously um, I can relate. But
But
so let's go into that. What are some of your biggest inspirations, both personally and professionally? And we'll obviously go into professional wrestling. Um, However, I'm very curious as to see um, what your favorite influences were outside of wrestling when it comes to whether like Buck Gotch in the ring or you the person.
so growing up was a little bit weird for me, especially kind of like until I got old enough to just kind of realize who I was and put everything up that way, like bullied and stuff like that a lot. Now, half it was stupid enough to be like my fault and just not reading social systems and not knowing people's triggers, but I'd always say a lot of stupid things. But to me, in the three different high schools I went to, there was always one teacher. There was Mr. Doyle in Mobile. There was Trudy down in Brother T.I. and Mr. Barron in Holy Heart. That they kind of looked past all the other stupid shit and just kind of always ended up to talk to me, believe me, push me, see what I wanted. And outside of wrestling, they were three major influences on me just to be like, well, these guys kind of believed in me. Another thing is, as a whole, would have been Choices for Youth. They were a company that helps teenagers and young people when they're in really bad situations. And they took me and they helped me. And if not for those influence of those people outside of wrestling, I probably wouldn't be here coherent enough to have a conversation in my house. Like I've done a lot of things, and I don't think without the help of like choices or those teachers that I mentioned, they wouldn't really. There wouldn't be much for me to say, much to say that inspired me.
Okay, and it sounds like that sort of led you down the right path. How did you get in with choices?
Uh, the long story short of just a shitty situation with family. A friend of mine I'd known was on choices. Happened to go there with them one day, and then when my situation got really bad, I just kind of showed up on Choice's doorstep and went, "Here's what it is, boys. This is where I'm to right now in my life." And they
Mm-hmm.
set me up with a family and schooling, and because I came from up in Bay Bulls, about a half an hour, 45 minutes outside of town, so Choice being in town, it was a bit of a culture shock for me. I always growing around the Bay, and not really having the availability to see all the different things. And like in high school, I was in Mobile. It was sixth grades. There was 300 people. I went to Holy Heart. It was three grades and 1,200 people. So like
Mm-hmm.
the stuff you were noticed for in one school, nobody really gave a fuck in the other school, right? Like
For sure. Yeah, and when it comes to like your experiences with choices, how do you think that helped you both personally, like when it comes to when you got out of that program, and obviously when you got out of the program, you were a grown adult by then. Um, how would you say the lessons you learned in choices helped you get through struggles you faced as an adult?
so, choices really instilled in me school. Go to school, get it done. It was always important, no matter what you did, no matter what career choice. It was always make sure you had that piece of paper because that piece of paper is important, whether it's a high school diploma, your GED, but it's anything that shows that honestly, you can put up with the bullshit of being told what to do enough to get that piece of paper. They're always, no matter what I did, they always harped me on that, and they made sure. And they used to put in little incentives. Say you went to school, and they pay you if you were at so many percentage of days of school, and you got topped up for so much. They kept the focus even when I was too old for the program because usually the cutoff was 18.
Hmm.
Because a friend of mine was still there and they saw me pushing, choices always went above and beyond for me when they never had to. So, like, to me, it was always, anytime they've ever reached out for me, I said, "Boss, what do you need? I'll come down, I'll write this, I'll say this, I'll do this." Like, and it's always going to have a spot in my heart because, like, I know the good work that they do if you want to take advantage of that good work.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, when I first met you, you were working down. Jeez, what was the company you were with at the time?
OSL was the name in the Walmart.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember going down and visiting you on a fairly somewhat regular basis whenever I was around. Came by with the kids every now and then. Since then, since the pandemic hit and things kind of slowed down with all that, how's everything been? Um, like, how has the lessons you learned in choices and stuff like that sort of helped you get through the um, sort of hurry up and wait of what the pandemic has been putting on everybody?
So even with all that stuff, it was always had me ready to. I'll say the cliche, expect the unexpected. But
Hmm.
you never knew what was going to come. You always had to be prepared. You always had to be ready. When the pandemic happened, if anything I took from choices was they were always telling me, but there's always curveballs going to come into your lifestyle. Whether that was you expect to get a check that day or the weather's supposed to be nice, and you always had to adapt and change, but in the same breath, always stay. There's got to be something you believe in. So, like, don't kill your morals for work. Don't let work spoil you. Don't let bad decisions screw up your decisions in your hobbies or your work or your life or anything like that. It's always trying to think and understanding that the decisions that I made, I got to stand by them because if I make a dumb decision or if I say something stupid, and I don't understand what I've done wrong and don't, oh, I'm sorry, or no, you're right, I was wrong. There's a difference in doing something and knowing you did something wrong after the fact, somebody tell you and you understanding and accepting and trying your best to rectify the situation, or doing something wrong and just be like, well, I don't give a fuck. Choices
Hmm.
help install that to me, like good, bad, or indifferent. If I do something, I do something. And don't shy away from it. If somebody has a problem, you tell them, you reach an understanding. Like they made me more human. Like sounds stupid, but the emotions more of if you're going to do something, do it. And
Yeah.
if people don't like it, people don't like it. But if you feel justified in your actions and they're not wrong actions, it doesn't matter if other people get hurt.
Yeah.
Like
I,
not physically hurt, but I mean, like if somebody's going to get mad at you, it's not my fault that you're mad at me because I'm doing something that I feel is right.
yeah, I understand that completely. How would you say that mentality helped you in the wrestling industry? Obviously, I know how wrestling as a whole inspired you and influenced you, and we're definitely going to touch on that. But speaking about being in the wrestling industry, how did the lessons you learned from those teachers, from choices, how did those things that they instilled in you help you get through struggles when it came to wrestling?
So even when first starting wrestling, it was more of it's a culture shock to a lot of people that haven't been part of a wrestling show. And whether that is you're a wrestler or you're a manager or you're a referee or you're a character outside of that curtain, once you come through that curtain, it's a different mood, it's a different atmosphere, it's a different feeling. So like the first, I'll say dozen shows I ever did. And this was well before Buck Gotch was a thing. This was just regular Buck. And back in 2002, it was walked through and it was like the kind of like panic attack and just getting used to it. And choices always helped me just center myself and you want, go take it. I wanted to do the wrestling stuff. They were like, well, then go do it because it was around that time frame too that choices knew what I was doing. So I
Mhm.
didn't care, and they were like, just follow your dreams, just make sure you don't get hurt. Like doing like working at a Walmart and selling phones was always, oh, you're doing that wrestling stuff, you're gonna hurt yourself. That job I had, if I had to get any kind of seriously hurt that wasn't bound to a wheelchair, and even still bound to a wheelchair, I was able to do my job easily. But it was always not being afraid to
Mhm.
try these new things. We'll touch on the different gimmicks. Everything before Buck Gotch was just kind of me putting my feet in the water and getting wet and seeing what that feeling was like and not letting it be scared and knowing I can push through. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you eventually get into the industry? I know you and Travis used to go to the shows all the time or whatever. How did you eventually get into the industry from the behind the scenes aspect?
So one of the guys, his name's Jerry O'Neill. Him, Justin Aylward, Andrew Hawkins. A lot of these guys went to school a couple of communities up from me from Mobile,
Hmm.
and across from around the Bay, towns know each other, so we all kind of became friends or spoke and hung out. And Jerry was going out to see Fred Brophy, uh, Freddie Youngblood, Zach's uncle,
Oh, tremendous!
and
Yes.
through that way, I kind of got invited out to one of the shows one day, and just they knew I was a big wrestling fan, just like them. And from there, it just kind of slowly migrated to doing this, showing up and train, and setting up the ring, and being one of those young boys is the easy way to explain it with no other purpose outside of this is cool, this is what I want to do. I would say it's funny now, the young people now got no clue how lucky it is wrestling. When we had to pay a membership to stand in the crowd if you wanted to be a wrestler. And now and it's just handed to them and they get paid like young fellas now don't know how lucky they got us. Right? Like it's just funny more than anything else.
Oh, absolutely. So, who would you say, like, when you first came in, were the guys that helped take you under their wing?
Initially, in terms of guys that we're actually speaking to, and like to me, knowing what I know now back then, just the guys that were around the wall. Darren Lewis, he wrestles Darren Storm. John Bennett, Chris Howlett, who wrestles Little C. Three of them right off the bat were the first that came to my head that they were the ones that came to me. John Mallard, Johnny Chaos as well. That they saw me as this young little fella, and they were just kind of helping and they'd say stuff. And like you brought up Travis too, and I was there. Travis was there. There was Lance Starfellow there as well. Just as three of the trainees that kind of evolved into it. But these
Yep.
guys kind of, for me, listen to my nonsense, listen to my bullshit. And if it was something cool, they said it. And if it was something that wasn't cool or just sounded really stupid, they'd be like, "Well, that's kind of dumb."
Hmm.
Okay, can you justify your dumb? Okay, nice try. Or yeah, if you can't justify it, why are you doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so when it comes to obviously growing up, you eventually grew to watch wrestling all the time. Uh, what about the wrestling on TV that you've seen that made you, wow, I need to do this. I love this. This is like, what about it inspired you to maybe even make it through the struggles you were going through that day?
Even because ever since we talked about me doing this, I was thinking about it, and to put a time frame on stuff I can vividly remember would have been around 4 or 5 years old, so like the 89, 90s. Hogan's still on his big upswing, but the Ultimate Warriors, this new colorful character coming in. Uh, Saturdays used to be the best time to watch wrestling because it was Saturday afternoons. You'd
Yep.
get to scatter, and I was lucky enough because not a lot of people had it. For me growing up, we had TBS up our way on our cable package that not a lot of companies, places in Newfoundland, I should say, got that channel. So I always managed to get WCW Saturday night too, mostly
Oh,
jobbers and stuff like that. But like growing up, I had Saturday morning was WWF, Saturday night was WCW. When the Raws got big in '93 and the Nitros in '95, TSN used to show them. It was always I could get lost into the characters, starting with the Hulk Hogan's of this guy's a superhero. Like, look at him, and then you look at people like the Undertaker, frightened the shit out of me, absolutely scary, but you'd never be able to look away because in the same breath of your Bret Harts that are great technical wrestlers and Shawn Michaels, you got people like Hulk Hogan and the Undertaker who are well over the top characters, and everything about it was all flashy colors. It was all larger than life characters, and no matter what happened in my day to day life, I could watch that and get lost. And oh no, that evil Papa Shango's coming out. No, he did some voodoo curse on the Ultimate Warrior. Like everything in my life didn't matter because I could be able to get lost in wrestling and watch the shows and read the magazines and play with the figures and do everything in the fantasy world.
Absolutely. So when the video games started coming out, speaking to how it kind of gave you that fantasy world, that escape, I absolutely wholeheartedly understand that because in a lot of ways it was the same thing for me. Um, when the video games started coming out and the uh, action figures were always on the go, what would you say was the main thing like you would always like to do as the escape? Like what were the stories you were telling as a kid? Because we all had them.
So for because you kind of got to and I got to date myself for the age when I think about how actually long it was ago. It depends on what system you had. You had a regular Nintendo, you played WWF WrestleMania, and you knew there was only 5 or 6 guys, so you kind of had to go through your own thing. When you got into the Super Nintendo ones, it was more graphics were a little bit better, the rosters were a little bit bigger, but you couldn't really do much that way. I
Yep.
found until you got to the Nintendo 64 games, 98, 99, 2000, and that's peak for me being 12, 13, 14 years old. And they had their, if you didn't want to do your own things in your head, they had their storyline modes that gave you this invested in it was cool, and there was always replay value that way. If
Yep.
not, a WrestleMania 2000, make my own belts, create characters that aren't normally in the game, whether they're with another Fed, like, or it was like, say you wanted Spider Man, or you. It was always dependent on when I turned it on that day, who I saw first, and then the first person see, oh, he can fight him, or this would be a good match, or this should be a title on the line, like stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking to the video games and stuff like that, um, have you seen anything about the 2K22 coming out? Are you at all interested in that game? Intrigued at all?
I didn't get last year's because it was absolute dog crap for all the glitches and stuff. I still got 19. I very rarely poke at it, but I needed a couple of years to kind of be like, okay, I can't drop $100 on a wrestling game here now, but they're saying everything's fixed. And between the new WWE game, because I'm a big WWE fan, plus
Yeah.
AEW's got a video game coming out, I want to say within the next year that they're working on to make it like that old nostalgia No Mercy style. So
And
like even
that's
that,
making me
the whole,
very curious.
however the control style is on that is going to be great. But even still, for that, especially for this generation now, if you got WWE puts out a halfway decent video game, AEW puts out a halfway decent video game, you got a whole new generation that just sees video games now, and that could be their first introduction into wrestling,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
I knew a lot of buddies back when I was a kid. They would never sit down and watch wrestling with me, but they wouldn't mind playing the wrestling games.
It's different.
Right?
Because you can, wrestling's fake. Look at it there. But if you pick up a video game, oh, that looks some real. Pick a fucking side, boss. Like,
No kidding. Well, well, I would like to thank you for joining us there, Ed Fries 2002. Enjoy the rest of your day and feel free to come check out the rest of the show whenever you get a chance. So, Buck, when
Cam,
it comes to the introduction to wrestling and stuff like that, you mentioned quite a few guys. your characters when it came to the step by step growth of the Buck Gotch character. Um, Obviously, we had a comment on Facebook. Wanted me to ask you where the cabbage came from, what the idea on that was.
Okay, so
So I suppose
I'll
we can
go back
start there.
to the whole thought process. Yeah, I'll go back to the whole thought. So when CW reopened back in 2011, the idea was thrown around that we embrace my family, the
Mm-hmm.
Gotch family. Frank
Yep.
Gotch at this time was 136 years old. The reason Frank Gotch was 136 years old, because that's a real fucking number, was his steady diet of healthy sexual appetite with any kind of woman and Iowa cabbage. So Axel, Adam Peddle, was our brother cousin because he wasn't an official kid, but he was still part of the family.
Yeah, yeah.
Scott was the chosen one, and I was, without being an idiot, I'll say I was Eugene. And anybody that watches wrestling will
The
understand what that
special
means.
one.
Yeah, Buck was real special. when that character first came around, Buck was real special. What they gave me the cabbage, as in because I was so special, I had that special power, that the special strength power.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you went to fuck with the cabbage, I might not have been all there, but I was gonna mess you up, like just
Yeah.
big, strong, and throw you away. So and the funny thing about it, I fucking hate cabbage. Absolutely hate it. And the first time they said it to me, I just stopped and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Why? What's wrong with it? I don't like it. You think you can do it anyways? Is this what? You know what? Fuck it. Let's try it." And we did the first two CEW Rebirth shows, and we cooked the cabbage. I don't know about you, Cam. And I don't know about anybody that's actually listening. But if you cook cabbage and you leave it in a pot for 6 hours in a locker room, it fucking stinks. So you'd leave the cover on, and every now and then you'd lift up the cover and close it right quick, and then you'd watch everybody in the locker room go from big smiles to absolutely disgusted looks on their face because all they got was the smell of cabbage. After the second show, we realized it was a bad idea, and we just started bringing like raw cabbages. And that was hard enough as it was, taking a bite of a raw cabbage when you don't like it. At least when it was cooked, it'd get all squishy and stuff. But raw cabbage, it was like, But yeah, that's what it was. It was the family. There's people now that still call me the cabbage man. There's people now that still say the cabbage thing because we went from the end of 2011 till 2017, so 6 years worth of shows, however frequent or infrequent they were. That cabbage thing was like drilled into people's heads, and it kind of helped with the character of Buck Gotch because like he wasn't that big mean guy at that point, and just wholeheartedly he protected cabbage. He protected his family's cabbage. Like he was the most innocent, sweet guy ever, and then Newfoundland wrestling got to him.
I feel like that's the more uh realistic to the person version of the Buck Gotch character, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, you trade cabbage with marijuana, and that's basically it.
So how would you say the Buck Gotch character evolved to this aggressive, hateful, just nasty big dude?
even even when it was suggested to me that maybe Buck is bigger and stronger and angrier than he's led on to believe for so many years, I was kind of hesitant about it. But it was just kind of playing through it, and different things happened inside wrestling, and then different situations happened outside of wrestling that it just seemed like maybe Buck is big and bad and strong and mean and angry.
Yeah.
And every single thing, because you didn't get the fun of the first Buck Gotch, right? Like
No.
the first Buck Gotch, as foolish as it was, I remember one match, and the boy suggested it. It was great. The match goes to start, the bell rings, and I go, wait, I got a tinkle. and leave the ring and run to the bathroom and wait a couple of minutes. Use the bathroom, come back out. As I come out, TJ Taylor's working me that night. And TJ was always so good for this stuff. And he'd scream and he'd stop. Did you wash your hands? And again, nothing that me and TJ really planned out of that extra stuff. And it was, oh. And then I'd look at my hands and pretend like they were wet. And then me and TJ would run around the ring. And I'm trying to get them wet. Like, so every little thing aspect that made Buck Gotch fun, I wanted to take it away. I always bright green, waving and smiling. My gear changed to all black. I used to wear one boot, one sneaker because it was funny. Straight boat boots, clapping hands. I didn't do none of it. My song changed from this happy-go-lucky circus song to this creepy, twisted fucking clown stuff. Like,
Yep.
even still now, whether I'm wrestling or I'm not wrestling, if I'm that bad guy, don't ask me to sign stuff. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be like, well, why? You're mean. And I'm like, fucking great. You understand how this works. Like, Special Buck Gotch loved that everybody loved him. The mean Buck Gotch, if you liked him, he had to do something to make you not like him. Not a lot of people want to be bad guys anymore. Or if they want to be bad guys, they want to be this, I'm this cool bad guy. What the fuck? I want you to hate me. I want to be that bad guy that, because even that, like, as much as you hate bad guys when you watch wrestling, I hated $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. I loved it every time he got his ass kicked. You know what I mean? Like, as those examples. So for me, looking at it that way, Happy Buck Gotch, Special Buck Gotch gave all these kids these cool little things and these moments that they loved and stuff. Mean Buck Gotch, when they leave, they're going to be like, that guy was a dick. Don't curse, but he was, Mom. Like, what do you want me to say here? Good.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that one a few times. Between you and Tony, you guys were getting good reactions there from the people for your hateful behavior.
Oh, so much more fun. And that's another thing that helps. We call it going on the theme of inspiring. It Facebook Gotch was inspiring because I know there's still some special needs kids that I'll see, and regardless of Buck Gotch was mean or Buck Gotch is happy, they absolutely love Buck. And even when I had one kid come up to me, how come you did what you did when you turned on Scotty? Oh, wait, because John Biz dumped a truck full of money on my front lawn. And the kid stopped and he was like, yeah, no, that makes sense. It's like a 10-year-old kid, right? Like, I'm just like, okay, you kind of get it. You're 10. Your lemonade stand's going to be a bit more aggressive, but you kind of get it now. Like, but even that stuff, whether it was heel or Facebook Gotch, for me, heels and faces inspire me because it was the characters. And I know that there's people that have come to local wrestling shows in Newfoundland that it's made enough of a difference. I've gone to birthday parties where the kids specifically was like, oh, I'm Buck. I never, ever thought that it'd be a point that somebody specifically was like, I'd like Buck to be here because I really enjoyed Buck as a character, good, bad, or indifferent. That
Mhm.
that stuff really hit and really enjoyed it. It kind of made more anything else worth it. I could have my fun with all my friends and be an idiot all at once. But the fact that somebody actually enjoyed the character and it made them happy and it made them come to shows, that was all that, in hindsight, that's all that ever really mattered.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look at your inspirations for the in-ring aspect of Buck Gotch, the original iteration of Buck, the happy-go-lucky Buck, who would you say was the biggest inspiration for that style, that version of Buck? Was it a big Eugene influence?
It was just because I saw how it used to work for WWE. And yes, it's a bigger jump of a scale when you talk about 10,000 fans and 100 fans. As the, you know what I mean, as number. But it was more, to me, it was the mannerisms. Like Eugene would do the wave and do the clap. And they were told straight from Eugene. That wave and that clap were so easy because they didn't have to do much. And
Mm-hmm.
you meet one kid's eyes and you just go, hi, I'm Buck. And I used to do the voice, and an incident happened, and I stopped doing the voice. And that was another thing. It was like when I used to do the Buck Gotch voice, and somebody did the voice back, and it wasn't just them pretending; it was their actual voice. I was like, yeah, no. It's got to stop. At least
Yeah.
that aspect, anyways. But Eugene was always, it was easy to look at. And then it was outside of Eugene, it wasn't just one regular person. Buck Gotch was a comedy character. So he wrestled like a comedy character. So to go find Crash Holly, to go find early Mikey Whipwreck, to go find these guys that, and I was big anyways, but it wasn't the big aspect of them. It was not what they did, it's how they did it.
Hmm.
People get in the ring all the time. Buck Gotch used to trip up in the rope, right? And it was just the
Yep.
little stuff like that that even still, when you evolve from Happy Buck to Mean Buck, even look at Eugene when Eugene was a bad guy for 2 or 3 weeks. The reason it didn't really get over because it didn't really change much of Eugene's inspiration. So me looking at Eugene, all them comedy wrestlers for Buck Gotch worked, but the second Buck became bad, then I had to look at people like Bam Bam Bigelow and King Kong Bundy and Big Show more than anybody else. Everybody always, oh, look, big bald goatee, that's Buck Show. Haha, funny. But no, really, like, he was the one to look at it. Like, even sometimes how somebody'd hit me with a move. If you watch how Big Show would land, I'd always try to land like Big Show because to me, Big Show was a big fella. And if he could do it, there's no fucking reason I couldn't at least attempt to try to land on my face gracefully. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. When it came to the guys you were working in the ring with, who would you say were some of your favorite guys you worked in the ring with?
most, as stupid as it sounds, most everybody I worked with, I had fun with one way or another. But even as Angry Buck Gotch, I was always, the young fellas were given to me. I'm big and it hurts sometimes when I hit you. But there's some of the young fellas, they got stuck with me. Cam, you know what? You're one of them. If you hit me in the face, what was going to happen? Ow. That sucks. Like, I always loved working with young fellas. I loved working with you because you were so much fun because you were adaptable. It was, what are we going to do here? Okay, let's try this. And even in the ring, it was always something. This is working. Do this again. Oh, light me up more. Hit me like it was just adaptability. In there, and
Yep.
like if I went through names, it'd be like I loved working T.J. Taylor. T.J. Taylor was new. He was young, and he knew what he was doing. I
Yep.
loved fucking working Jack Carson. I loved being entangled in with Mark Cranenberg, Chuck Ferguson. He
Yep.
and they were three young guys in the early CW that was they listened, they liked it, they wanted to do it. When I did the run in NEW and we were fighting all the mask guys, I was given CPU as a main feud, and CPU is my baby. I was given Newfie Bullet, who's been fucking around forever under what name he wanted to do, and he was really smart with it. And I was given Kyoki. And Kyoki has said it before too in his broken English that anytime he wrestled me, if he stiffed me, he didn't worry. I enjoyed working all the young people because get your stiffs out, boys. I'm going to get punched in the head. I don't really care. If you can work them out on me, there is people wrestling that aren't going to be as forgiving with a stiff. And there's
Yep.
people like me that you stiff me and it's like, oh, that sucked. Try it this way. How about try this? And I've stiffed you. I've stiffed people like Don and
Wakes
TJ
you
and the
up.
same breakers. It's just, it accidentally happens. The only difference was always how you responded to it. Right? Oh,
Absolutely.
bang. If you stiffed me and then you didn't say anything, or you stiffed me and you were like, oh, I'm so sorry. Or if I stiffed you and I went, I'm sorry, and you came back and stiffed me one enough to be like, we're caught up now. Okay, we're even again. Let's go back to home. Like, it was just the mindset of it more than anything else, right?
Yeah,
So my
absolutely.
so my answer would be I loved working all the young fellas. These young fellas were still fresh enough that they had to get their kinks out, and I'm built like a concrete slab in the head. So like it was just easy.
Absolutely. So when you were first coming in, who would you say sort of helped mold the Buck Gotch character both in and out of the ring?
Until I really realized what was going on and how to
Oh,
portray characters, I honestly got to give all the
are we
credit.
having a technical difficulty here?
No, can you hear me?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, we're good. Yeah. I can see you. Can you see me? I'm gonna keep talking because it's saying live. Yeah. Honestly, in the beginning, before here we go. In the beginning, before I realized Dan Goss and Don Martini were really two because I was still trying to come into my own and figure out how it worked. And they
Yep.
were the two that were kind of like, you should try this, you should do this. And I'd say something, they'd be like, why? Not that it was good or bad, but it was like, why would you do that? And why are you doing it here? So they always kept me thinking about stuff. I remember there was a time another Fed was opening up and they wanted me to do the show, but they wanted me to do a different character. And Don and Dan were like, well, why? You just spent X amount of years doing Buck Gotch. Why would you go do something else that'll kind of ruin the aspect to it? And I stopped and I thought about it. And because I was going home to the show, and then it was, no, you're right. Like, it's just going to look, if this is Ontario, if this is Alberta, if this is Nova Scotia, where there is 7 to 15 feds around within a 200-mile radius, yeah, you could probably get away with doing. Well, this is Newfoundland, and there's one fed on the go, and every couple of years you'll get a second fed start up around here. Doing a different character in a different fed is counterproductive to anything that you've done up until that point. If you're not going to do a split personality gimmick, I'll say that they're two different characters.
Yep, for sure. I have an idea for some point during this episode for you and me to react to our match.
Which one?
Which one do I have? I have the one from Bonavista,
Oh, our first one.
our first one. Well, okay. So we can do that in a moment. For the time being, we can keep discussing our inspirations, influences here on Inspired with Cameron Stevens. If you're just joining us, I'm here with the Human Wrecking Ball, Buck Gotch, um, formerly known as the Special Monster for the Gotch family.
I wasn't even a monster. I wasn't even, and that's a funny thing. I've always been 6'2". I've always been 400 pounds, but Special Buck Gotch was never looked at as a monster. Never.
No?
No. But even still, I used to wrestle people. I don't really want to say names, but I used to wrestle people, and like, there's certain people I wrestled that should have known the difference that didn't. And like, until I became Bad Buck Gotch, people were like, why are you doing these things? That it stopped me and make me think this goes from believable character to just sideshow, and I wanted that transition a lot better. Had I known now what I'd known with Happy Buck Gotch, I still wouldn't have changed anything, but it would have gave me a better insight on some other things down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and when it comes to, obviously, you said Big Show was a great influence for your in ring. Um, have you seen much of his commentary work with AEW? I haven't had a chance to look at much of it, but
It's a color commentator that used to be a wrestler that is funny, but now he's doesn't have WWE handcuffing them, good, bad, or indifferent. WWE knows what they want in a product. You're going to
yeah,
let people go out and be free reign. Some people can go out and be free reign and do it properly, and some people go out and be free reign and do it terribly. And you're never going to know until you do it. So far, so good for them. Like watching Evolution and stuff. So
yeah.
far, so good.
Is that something you would ever have any interest in, doing a commentary thing? Because you've been out of the ring for a little bit here now. Are you considering yourself retired?
Eh. I I always said that I work with any fan if the situation had to arise. Some situations arise, some situations haven't. And tidbit, if you listen to the first couple of episodes of NEW TV that went up on NTV, me and Travis were the commentators. So I've done commentator before and loved it, and that was just as fun.
Hmm. Is that something you would want to look into doing for like future uh possibilities? Maybe if say a new Fed started up, or uh there was a company around that wanted a commentator or something like that, would you ever be um interested?
If I knew I could do it and have fun and no drama, I'd be in.
Absolutely. And one of our comments just came in saying that you are one of the best big men in Newfoundland ever. And man, I got to agree. Um, very good at what you
I love
do.
you.
And unfortunately, shit happens, is what it is. We don't need to get into all that here.
It don't need to be got it anymore. I had a lot of fun at wrestling, and if I ever do wrestle again, cool. But like, I've had more memories that were fun, and I made more friendships now from the little time I was wrestling. That it's fine. Like, coming to terms on it kind of sucks because it is still a very big love of mine, wrestling. Whether that's watching wrestling, whether it's playing video games, talking about it like this, like any other way. Wrestling's always going to be a love to me. So no matter what aspect or avenue I take to do wrestling, it's still going to be a major part of my life. Yeah, does it suck not throwing around my buddies? Yeah, but
Of course.
half the time, a lot of camaraderie of the show days. It's not even the show itself. It's not the 7 minutes that I go out and be Buck Gotch. It's the whole day of being around
Hanging
the
out with your
boys
buddies.
and seeing all the boys that you don't get to see because this is the day to dedicate it to them. And when I say boys, fully understand. I'm talking about like say Nick Hillier. I'll give him an example. Guys that did the photography and security. Steve
Yeah,
Heritage
shout out
and
Nick if you're watching for some odd reason. Nick, shout out, you're best kind.
right. Even still like and the generic term of saying the boys to me, Vera, Tank, they're the boys, right? The
Absolutely.
characters like every person that you see during those shows during that day is always something. Seeing the people set up the merch and doing the chairs and talking to the people at the venue that you probably wouldn't know until you did shows there. Like you make these weird friendships all the time for wrestling, and I was very, very grateful and very, very blessed to make the friendships I did and have the time that I did. And if I never wrestle again, I'll always be thankful for that stuff.
Oh, and I'm happy to hear that you're in a good mindset when it comes to all that. I know you've been doing your own podcast here as of late. It's wrestling related, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I hope so. The name of the show is The Wrestling Show. It's Sleazy the Fat Man. So I hope it's wrestling related.
So where do you guys usually air your show? Because I'll be honest, heard you speak of it. I've heard you tell me about it. I've never actually been able to find it.
I don't know if it's still being put up to YouTube. I know they're on Spotify and they're on the Gear Network,
Okay,
right?
and it's the wrestling show with Lazy and the
Sleazy
Fat
and the
Man.
Fat Man.
Tremendous. I love that name. Oh, you're Fred Dursting it now.
Oh yeah, I got to Red Hat.
Yes. So with the obviously when you were a kid, who were some of your favorites when it came to watching wrestling? Like obviously you'd watch the Saturday shows, both Saturday morning WWF, Saturday evening WCW. What would you say your favorite wrestlers were? Your favorite stories,
So like,
stuff like
even
that.
evolving, the generic answer is always going to be Hulk Hogan because Hulk Hogan forever and a day will be I fucking bleed red and yellow, man. Hulk Hogan is the man. Um, I touched on the Undertaker earlier being scary, but always just being enamored by him and just being like, what is he gonna do? Like, even now, the Undertaker, when I was a kid thinking about it, I used to hate playing the Super Nintendo Royal Rumble because the
Yeah.
Undertaker's music in 8-bit sounded just as fucking creepy. Like, and I was like, oh, if you're gonna pick him quick. I don't want to hear that stuff. I love Shawn Michaels. I was one of the few that I was the older brother, but I was more of a fan of Owen Hart than I was of Bret Hart during that whole storyline. I liked Owen, right? And that was always a real weird people thing. Be like, how would you're the bigger brother? How do you not like Bret? Because I fucking like Owen. Like, I just
Because
like
Owen's awesome. That's how.
Owen. To me, Owen was a better wrestler and Owen was a better character. But
So
again, at 9 and 10, difference now, I know that the two are really good, but at 9 and 10, you don't understand really the difference of what's a better character, we'll call it, because you don't really know what you're looking for, per se. You know what you like, you know what you don't like. I fucking love the Bushwhackers. Doesn't mean the Bushwhackers are going to be main events and world champions. Like,
sure, yeah. Um, touching on that time frame, um, you were obviously very into the Hearts. Were you? Who was your choice over Bret or Shawn?
oh, Sean.
Okay, so
It's funny because they used to get a lot of heat from people. They're like, "Who'd you like, Brett or Sean?" I'm like, "Sean." Why? Well, Sean was more athletic. Sean had more of a character driven. And anytime I heard Shawn Michaels speak on a microphone compared to seeing Bret Hart speak on a microphone, until Bret turned heel, Bret was really robotic on the mic. Shawn Michaels knew how to captivate you. Like, but again, for me, I can't say anything
absolutely,
about anybody else, right?
absolutely. It's funny. I actually had that same conversation here recently, to the same reaction. Because I'm also a Shawn guy. When I was younger, I was a Bret guy. But the reason I was a Bret guy when I was younger, because I liked them both the exact same. There was no one was better than the other for me. They were just as good as each other, just for different reasons, right? But what had Bret get the edge was he was Canadian.
I fucking knew it. I was gonna say the only reason Bret won was he was Canadian, then wasn't it?
Yeah, I was like they
But
were
even
just
still,
as
like
good as each
even
other,
Bret,
but Bret was Canadian, so he always had my cheers. That was
the
also one of
slight
the
edge.
reasons I really like when I was a kid, I always wanted to cheer for the Canadian wrestlers because there weren't as many Canadians as there were Americans on the roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the Canadians that I really gravitated towards was the Canadian Crippler, Chris Benoit.
Chris Benoit.
Did his work influence you at all when it like did you enjoy his stuff? Was that your style of wrestling?
So are we just yes, no, but are we just going to pretend that what happened didn't happen when we had this conversation? Because I really feel like it's okay. I liked Chris Benoit. I
Hmm.
still do enjoy Chris Benoit's work, regardless of what happened to Chris Benoit in those 4 days. That the horrific shit.
Yeah.
Chris Benoit's a worker. At no point should you be able to take any of that away from him. He was a fantastic worker. He was intense. He wasn't big, but he was that tough, brawling style. I like Benoit in WCW, all right. I like Benoit more in WWE, and it was just he just had that feud with The Rock, and I want to say 99, 2000, where like
Hmm.
they kept teasing Benoit winning the belt, but it was the match got restarted. Oh, he won
Yeah.
the belt, but the match got restarted. Like that Benoit when Shane was directing him, you could. He was one of the, if you wanted to say, handful of people that Benoit go out and have a match with a broomstick, and you
Yeah.
wouldn't notice that it was a broomstick.
Yeah, absolutely. Um going through the years as you got older, um, and obviously having jobs, going to shows and stuff like that, a lot of your time was taken up that wasn't taken up when you were younger. Um, what would you say was the wrestling that stood out to you once you were an adult? Was the stuff that sort of, wow, I really like this. I need to watch this.
ECW, really, because in that time frame, you're looking at me being 13, 14, and 15 years old, and
The
that kind of,
original?
yeah, yeah, you're like me 12, 13, 14 is 98, 99, 2000.
Okay.
right? And it was like fun and that stuff. I used to find myself if I couldn't watch wrestling, I'd always run to the computer lab at school the next day when I knew a show was on because I knew some website, some dirt sheet had the results up. And as much as the internet, we're on it now doing it, as much as the internet has hurt wrestling, it did help me, as an example, expand my horizon, expand my taste and what I wanted to see. ECW was by my far great. Early TNA in 2002 was also really fantastic. But I've been a WWE guy for so long now. Like, I see a lot of people shit on WWE for the sake of shitting on WWE, but it's like, you're shitting on it because you think it's bland. The wrestlers now, I don't give a fuck, are better than anything that come out of the Attitude Era in terms of wrestling wise. The Attitude Era had bigger characters, but most of the characters you're not going to get away with here now. Val
Depending
Venus
on
and
the
the
ones you go for, yeah.
Val Venus and the Godfather are going to be tag champs in 2021. Yeah, cancel culture all the way, buddy.
Fair. But there are still the characters like Gangrel and Steve Austin. Well, yeah, Steve Austin can still be Steve Austin, just not as foul mouthed, I
Wrong.
guess, these days. But I guess even then, still, like, watching the stuff he was saying, it wasn't so much foul mouthed for the sake of being foul mouthed. It was a um rebellious foul mouth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's not like he cursed much.
No.
Goddamn or something like that, right? It wasn't direct, you're a blah, blah, blah.
Oh
But it
yeah.
was always that Steve has to come out.
It's like the worst thing he'd say is some bitch, something
Yeah.
like that, right?
And if you can see that shit in the Bible, I suppose you can say it. That's fine.
Absolutely. Um, so we are at almost 53 minutes here into the show.
Fuck, I've never
Buck, do you
wrestled
want to
this long
watch
in my
our
life.
first match together?
Yes.
Yes, you do?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Cross the line.
That's coming home with me.
So this is
You got just no chance to win this that they got winning the beauty contest.
for, I believe it was New Evolution Wrestling, or was this CEW?
No, because the second time we fought was CW because it was the North Atlantic, and this one is for the
Right.
IP title.
Yes. Every time I wrestled for CEW, I wrestled you.
In the main event, in the title match.
Absolutely.
Every time. I wonder who was booking there.
Okay, and we are going to press play in 3, 2, 1, and look at the blonde, Jesus. Before I
Touch me and I'll make you look like that.
Ready?
That referee looks like some young stallion.
Yeah, that looks like the young stallion there as the referee. What a oh my goodness, I got kick pads on.
I love it. The generic indie black and red.
Oh yeah. If I'm not mistaken, either press logos to back or maybe Brady.
See, you're just faster. You're just faster. You're just ducking them punches.
I was like, I'm wearing kick pads. I might as well kick.
I love it. Just, babe, if you got kick pads on, kick the fuck out of me. It's not like I'm going to feel it.
This is a big oven pit.
I wish I had a piece of gum on my mouth that I could have spit out to make it look like a tooth when you need me.
Oh.
I love how you do that. Something wrong. As Max is out to be big and angry, something wrong with you comes out of my mouth. Pure nuisance.
That's the opposite of cheering.
Volume down on the video.
This was just after your match with Scott 2 out in Bay Roberts, which was fantastic.
Oh yeah, that for sure one of my favorite matches since I've been Tony.
How can they not like this greatness? Just look at this mountain of a man. Ragdoll Stevens, they called him.
If they didn't, they did now. Oh,
Love it. Get it.
hit it, hit it, get it,
Light
hit
me,
it.
light me up. It's like this, stuff like there. Had they not stopped counting, it would have been get you the fuck off me. The second they start counting, hit me, light me up, go, go. If they count to 100, hit me till 100, like.
Oh, stumbles out.
I don't even think I was awake then. I think it was just body movements.
Yeah, that flip wasn't on purpose either.
Zach took that one. Zach did. Me and Zach did that same spot a couple of shows before, I think. And he was like, I barely felt you. I was like, that's cool because there was a lot of weight on you.
You're a big boy.
Look at this. Look at this.
Especially there.
Let's see. Is it the classic? Oh, you moved. I always love that. And the refs tell you to stop. Just sit on them while they're against the ropes. So the ref can't, because I'm so big, the ref can't see anyways.
I definitely done that in our CW match for sure. Yeah.
And the
I always
rare
like
random
Big
time
Bad
that
Look,
the
but
colors
this is
actually
around-
aren't the same.
Oh yeah. See, I always like the Big Bad Look, but this is around the time I was switching boots. I can't remember why I didn't wear the boots at this show. I think it was like, I'm just gonna wear them one last time before I get rid of them. Oh.
Looks so devastating.
Flashback to Happy Meal.
One more time.
Time to ruin the magic here now. I gotta ask you a question. Why did you not stop that? I remember when we talked about
Because
it,
it was
like
devastating.
that was like the third one, you should knee me in the nuts. And then I went to Jude, you watched my legs buckle, I was like, you never knee me in the nuts. What the hell is this? But I was mad you didn't hit me in the testicles. Oh, light them up, get them. Chop that tree down.
Just bounces off you. Jump.
I love it. Get it.
The sound on that too. Shit.
Oh, here. And this is a gift in my phone, this upcoming spot, because I love having it. They cheering. He's going to do something. Back.
Yeah.
Ow.
I think that's the first time I ever actually hit that Superman punch.
Is this where we're putting the Magic of Wrestling podcast? Because if it is, I'll tell the story, and if it's not, I'll leave it alone.
That was two. That was two, Cameron.
I mean,
Up top.
oh. What did I do up top? What? I don't remember.
Yeah, because you jumped right into the fucking choke is what happened. That's why you don't remember anything.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. What move did I do? The fall and stand.
Kicking the legs and everything.
All right. Spaghetti legs.
The spaghetti legs is probably one of my favorite. My favorites. I love the spaghetti legs. Dead. Gone. Done to.
And even And even that there, just that little, it looked like I dominated you. But once that match was over, it was that little stagger from the punch that, oh my jaw, like, yeah, no, yeah, fuck it. I don't care. We're ruining the magic of wrestling. I don't really care. I remember that day, and I remember you come up to me and we were talking about it. And I looked at you and I was like, what's your finish? And you were like, I don't got one. I don't got one yet anyway. So I was like, well, why do you want to get over? I always wanted to try the Superman punch. I said, do it. Yeah, do it. I got so much shit on for that. Not by anybody particular, but of a generalization to everybody when Buck Gotch should have never came off his feet. By like, and it was just a punch in the face and blah, blah, blah. And I always stop people. I was like, no. First off, if you want to play that rule, not only did he punch me in the face, he was after lighting me up with clotheslines. He after kicked me straight in the face and caught me off guard. So I always fought people. I was like, that makes sense that I came off the ground. The second fight was always, he fucking punched me and dropped Buck Gotch. If you want to play that game, that punch should drop every single person it hits now because it was just established that it's going to drop Buck Gotch.
And
And a month
realistically,
later, how did we start our match a month later?
oh yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And how was that? And it was just like everybody thought it was done. At that point, then, 2 Superman punches later, that was fully established that if anybody said that's not believable, I'd show them that match and go, it's 100% fucking believable. So there's the
and
match for that
realistically,
ruined.
these days, the only time that Superman punch doesn't beat somebody is if they fall out of the ring, or if it's like they're too close to the ropes.
And the foot up. Well, that was like
Yeah.
the Buck Bomb, too, for the longest while. The Buck Bomb, nobody ever kicked out of. 2 people kicked out of that. Scott kicked out of it, and Locke kicked out of it.
And
And any other time, you didn't kick out the Buck Bomb. You were hurt for the Buck Bomb, but it was a
that was
tables match.
the Kali gimmick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, our second match, I hit you with the Superman, then you hit me with the Buck Bomb.
Oh, shit. So you make the triple threat of it then. Ooh. Ooh.
3 count.
Even fucking still, if anything, there's your inspiration. What inspired you to get Cameron over with a Superman punch and let him kick out of a Buck Bomb?
Yeah, man, you were definitely one of the guys when I came out here who definitely wanted to help me get better established here, and it's very much appreciated. It's one of the reasons why you're one of the guys I still talk to on a semi-regular basis. I don't talk to anybody on a regular basis, but semi-regular, yeah.
That's it, once every 2 weeks.
Yes, yes. Well, that's the thing. Dad life, it keeps you busy, man. It's like I was originally planning on doing this podcast a half hour earlier, but I was out for a walk with the kids.
Your inspiration is going to be when they're old enough to hold the mic and the camera.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely one of the inspirations going these days, man, for sure. It's you know, putting food on the table, getting the toys for the young ones, and getting shit took care of, you know?
Well, that's the main thing.
Yeah. If I don't do nothing else, as long as I got that took care of, I'm good.
That's the main thing. No matter what. Like I said, when you first brought this up, we were talking about people that inspire you. It's the wives, the daughter, good, bad, or indifferent on what I do.
Hmm.
As long as they're the ones that I know are taking care of at the end of the night, no matter what I does, they're the ones inspiring me to want to work, to want to do better, and everything else just kind of follows suit. And if I don't have the support from them, and if I don't have the inspiration from them, I don't go wrestle. I don't go do the things that I want to do.
Yes, absolutely. And it's something that it's very difficult to um it's a very difficult thing to describe if like it's kind of harder to understand if you're not in the position, if that makes sense. Like until you're a parent or until you're a husband, it's kind of difficult to understand the position, you know what I mean? Like before before I was a dad, before I was a husband, it was like Yeah, I bet that'd be like obviously it's not going to be easy, but it's not going to be, extreme if that makes sense. But no, no, it still is. Definitely still is. 100% still is. Yeah. But that's all that's okay. I can't remember. I'm looking through my computer here, which is why I'm a little all over the place eyes wise. Did I make a Buck Gotch logo?
If you did, it was many moon ago.
It was many moon ago. It was one of my first logos if I did. And I don't think we got it where we enjoyed it enough to actually keep it. Um
Imagine. My last match was a year and a half ago.
and was that the four-way?
Yeah,
Hey, I was in that.
right?
Yeah, you, me, Don, and Blake.
The surprise opponent, Blake. Because I wasn't seeing from a mile away.
Yeah. Oh, I loves it. But yeah, so is there anything or anyone else you wanted to shout out as an inspiration and influence on you over the years, both whether personally or professionally?
In the generic sense of my dad and my mom, like mom's passed away there now, but dad was always instilling stuff into me. Mom, before she passed, was always instilling stuff into me. Always wanting to do better. I guess in terms of just the people that have shown that they believe in me, the people that have shown to want to be around and make that aspect of all aspects of my life, and not just they support me in wrestling, they don't support me in real life, or they support me in real life, but they never supported me. Say if I like playing Dungeons and Dragons, it was always anybody that always supported me when I was good, always talked me down when I was bad. Those are the people that kind of inspire me to try to, if not do better, then to do status quo and try not to make other people's lives, try not to be a detriment to other people's lives. If I can't inspire somebody, I don't want to hinder them.
Absolutely. I love that, man. That's something that's a good way to be, man. I love that. Um with that being said, we're what, hour and 8 into this. Did you want to try to wrap it up here?
Yeah, might as well. Anything I find a podcast where anything goes over an hour, people get bored of our shit, anyways.
So, with that being said, I'm going to give you your time frame here to push whatever the hell you want to push. So that is whether it's your podcast, your if you have a merchandise gimmick on the go, whatever that
I'm a
may be.
I am always and will forever be a proper heel. I don't need to sell merch.
Is there anything anywhere that people can find you? What's your social medias, your stuff like that?
The Twitter, because I'm that old to call it the Twitter, is at Ryan Buck 85. I do the wrestling show with Sleazy and the Fat Man. That's on the Gear Network and Spotify, and it's probably on a bunch of other shit. I just don't remember it. I just know that's the two they're checking on. I know
Okay,
they're
so
on
Ryan
Spotify
Buck
because I follow them.
85 on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got it there on the bottom, Ryan Buck 85 for Twitter, and your Instagram was which?
Ryan Buck Gotch, because I had to gel three things into one: my real name, my nickname, my work name.
Okay, so Ryan Buck Gotch for Instagram, and that is the wrestling show.
With Sleazy and the Fat Man. We're taping tonight too. Actually, it's funny.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, we tape on Tuesdays and the show comes out on Saturday mornings.
So it's Sleazy and the Fat Man, right?
C.
See,
Correct. Buck Gotch, trying to learn the devious ways of the masked man, spent a week in Portugal and learned just the word "see."
Okay, so underneath us on this little stream gimmick, I've got this little banner here, and it's got the wrestling show with Sleazy and the Fat Man. Make sure to check that out. They'll be recording tonight. Show Bucky some love. Give him a follow on Twitter at RyanBuck85. Give him a follow on Instagram at RyanBuckGotch. And don't forget, while you're showing Bucky some love, show me some love, damn it. You've been watching my show for over an hour. You might as well show me some love too. And you go to Linktree/TSP Cameron Stevens for that. And when you go to that link, you will be finding everything that I do, all of it. It's great. It's a one-stop shop for all Cameron Stevens. You find my website, you find my stores, which is Pro Wrestling Tees and TeePublic. And Bucky, they got your sizes on there too. Don't you worry.
Facts.
Yeah, they got all kinds of sizes on Pro Wrestling Tees, brother. Don't you worry. I got 20 options on that mug.
Ooh.
I've got all my social medias linked on there, certain brands that I'm attached to. I've got my NEW profile attached to my link tree, and I
I feel
also
like
have my graphic design work attached to that, as well as my family's stuff. So Coden and Dika and our cats all have their own things that they do online, and that's all linked on my link tree as well. Buck, is there anything you wanted to say before we close this out?
I mean, like, I feel like we shouldn't not represent Riley Puddester in City of Legends. See?
Riley
I feel
Puddester,
like
City Legends, the man. Absolutely.
specifically have to name drop him. That's all.
Yeah, Riley is absolutely amazing. He is one of the biggest supporters for Newfoundland wrestling out here. Um, I mean, if I was gonna name drop all the biggest influence, like all the biggest supporters of Newfoundland wrestling, we'd be here all day. Um, all of you know who you are. Um, but yeah, City of Legends, check that out. Buy his stuff. He's one of the good ones. As is Buck Gotch. He is one of the good ones. Absolutely love him. Show us all some love. Give us the follows. And while you're checking my stuff out, buy a t-shirt while you're there. Why not? You can pick up an NEW one, pick up a me one, pick up a Javen one if you want. Hey, you could pick up a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt, a Kenny Omega shirt, a New Evolution Wrestling shirt, and a Cameron Stevens shirt, all in the same order.
Now that's diverse.
Yep. All right, boys, girls,
Them, they, include them all.
animals, creatures,
Robots,
things, beings,
coasters.
everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us here on Love Wrestling. Thank you, all of the Love Wrestling guys, for helping us make this podcast a reality. And a big thank you to all of our inspirations, the ones who showed us what professional wrestling was and what got us not only through our struggles in life, but into the professional wrestling industry, where we have met so many great people, much like each other.
All love, brother.
All the love in the world. Have a great day, everybody, and peace out.